This is the question on comparative advantage. It says the table shows the ability of two countries, P and Q, to produce two goods, Y and Z. Which statement is correct? So in these questions, we need to first find out absolute and comparative advantage. Absolute advantage is the easier to find. Absolute advantage simply means who makes more. So if you look at country P, they make 1,000 of Y, while country Q makes 1,500 of Y. So country Q makes more of good Y, so therefore country Q has an absolute advantage in the production of good Y. Also, if you look at this, country Q makes more, which is 2,000 of Z as compared to country P. So one could say this, that country Q has an absolute advantage in the production of both goods, in the production of Y and Z. Now, for comparative advantage, we need to find out what we call opportunity cost, or who has a lower opportunity cost. So if you look at this, country P, if I write this here, country P has it 1,000 of Y is equal to 1,600 of Z, or 1Y is equal to 1.6 Z, right? But for country Q, it's 1,500 of Y is equal to 2,000 of Z, or 1Y is equal to 20 by 15, or 4 by 3, or 1.33 Z. So when country Q makes 1Y, they have they lose 1.33 Z, but when country P makes 1Y, they lose 1.6 Z. So clearly country Q loses less when they make Y. Therefore, Q has a comparative advantage in Y, which automatically means that the other country, which means country P, will have it in the other good. So P has a comparative advantage in good Z. So the right answer here is C, which says P has a comparative advantage in Z, which we just found out. P has a comparative advantage in Z, and Q has an absolute advantage in Y, because Q has an absolute advantage in both goods. So C for this question. So this is June 2013. It says the table shows the cost of producing a unit of food and a unit of clothing in countries X and Y expressed in the currency of each country. The exchange rate is £1 is equal to $3. So they've given us the cost of making food and clothing, but they've given us for country X in dollars, while for country Y they've given us in pounds. So for comparison perspective, let's just convert everything in one single currency. Let's just convert everything in dollars. So I would say £1 is equal to $3. So I'm going to write $3 here and $3 here. The next thing we do is basically we find out which country has a lower cost of making a good, or lower opportunity cost. So if you look at this, when country X makes food, they make it cheaper than country Y, because country X makes it in $2, while country Y would make it in $3. So country X has a comparative advantage in food, while country Y has a comparative advantage in clothing. Why am I saying that? Look at this. For country Y, when they make clothing, they make it for $3, while country X makes it for $4. So there's a $1 saving that happens. Similarly, for food, there's a $1 saving that happens when country X makes it. So country X should specialize in food, country Y should specialize in clothing. The next thing we look at is basically, they said this in this question, that what level of transport cost per unit of each commodity would exactly eliminate the benefits of trade. So in other words, if the transport cost is given here, what we need to look at basically is which cost will give us, which cost will result in the comparative advantage to go away. The comparative advantage really is simply of $1. Okay, now if you look at this, which of these answer choices will lead to $1? So A is clearly the right answer. In A, 0.33 pound is actually equal to $1. 0.33 pound is actually equal to $1. So let's say if transportation cost is $1 and country X is currently making food for $2. After transportation, the cost will be basically $2 for making the good plus $1 for transporting, and the answer would be $3. If $3 is the cost of giving the food to country Y, then country Y would be like, if we make it, we also make it for $3, and after transportation cost of getting it from country X is also $3. So there is no way we should be trading with country X because there is no change in cost. Similarly, for clothing, if country Y makes it for $3, which is this one, and then there's another $1 of transportation cost, that would add and make it to $4. So again, the comparative advantage would be lost because they themselves they sell it for $3 plus transportation, which means they sell it for $4, and the cost of making in country X is also $4, so there is no comparative advantage. So that's why the right answer for this question is A, which means that if there's a $1 cost of transportation, then the comparative advantage will disappear as the cost will be higher. In this question, they've given us changes that are happening to PPC. So there's some changes that are happening to what we call comparative advantage. So let's do the question. This says the diagram shows the production possibility curves for two countries, X and Y. A decrease in productivity moves country X's PPC from X1, which is this one, to X2. So if you look at this, that previously X1 was parallel to Y, which means the opportunity costs are same. So previously the opportunity costs are same, which means no comparative advantage, right? But then later what happens is that your opportunity cost actually now changes, because now previously it was X1, now it becomes X2, which means now X2 is no longer parallel with Y. In fact, X2 and Y are have a different opportunity cost. So if you can find the opportunity cost for X2, it's 40 of raw material is equal to 50 of manufacturing, which means 1 R is equal to 5 by 4 M. Right? Now, for country Y, on the other hand, if you look at country Y, it's 30 R. So let me write this. Y is equal to 30 R is equal to 90 M, or 1 R is equal to 3 M. So clearly, when country Y makes 1 R, they lose 3 M. When country X makes 1 R, they lose less than 3, in fact 5 by 4 M. So clearly, country X has a comparative advantage in R, while country Y has a comparative advantage in M. So country X should specialize in raw material, and then the excess they can give it to country Y, who can specialize in manufactured good. And that's why if you look at the answer choices, the right answer for this question is, after the change, X would export raw material because they have a comparative advantage in raw material, and import manufactured goods because that's what country Y would produce. So A is the right answer. This is question number 18. It says each diagram shows the production possibility curves of two economies, X and Y, which produces food and clothes. In which diagram would both economies benefit by specializing in the good in which they have a comparative advantage and trading at an exchange rate of 1C is equal to 1.5F. So the rule is that the exchange rate has to be in between the two opportunity costs. So we need to look at one of these answer choices that will give us basically the opportunity cost, where 1C is equal to 1.5F should lie. The right answer is C, because if you look at C, it says 2C is equal to 4F for X, which means 1C is equal to 2F. Okay, for country X, 1C is equal to F. For country Y, it's 5C is equal to 5F, or 1C is equal to 1F. So for country Y, it's 1C is equal to 1F. For country X, it's 1C is equal to 2F. And between 1C is equal to 2F and 1C is equal to 1F, you would see this opportunity cost, which is 1C is equal to 1.5F, that would lie. Therefore, the right answer would be C. Now, you can cancel out B, because B has a completely parallel exchange rate, which means if the exchange rate is parallel, no trade will take place. And this one says 1C is equal to 3F versus 1C is equal to 2F. Okay, and between this opportunity cost, the exchange rate would not fall. So A can't be the right answer, because 1C is equal to 2F and 1C is equal to 3F is the opportunity cost. So that's why C is the right answer. In this question, what we have is two PPCs, and these PPCs are not parallel. They are actually pivotal, and therefore the opportunity cost is not identical. So clearly we can get A out of the way, which says opportunity cost is not identical. C says the opportunity costs are constant in both economies, and it's the right answer. And simply because whenever the PPC is linear, the opportunity costs are the same. Okay, so C is the right answer for this question. In this question, we're given again two countries, X and Y, and they're making rice and wheat. Let's first quickly figure out what's the opportunity cost. For country X, it's 900 R is equal to 300 of wheat, or basically 1 wheat is equal to 900 divided by 300, which means 3R. So that's the opportunity cost for country X. For country Y, it's 50 wheat is equal to 100 of rice, or 1 wheat is equal to 2R. Okay, the question is asking us that assume that each country now specializes according to comparative advantage. Which terms of trade would benefit both countries? Well, in terms of trade, that is, or exchange rate, as in between these two opportunity costs would be beneficial, and that's why C is the right answer, which says 1 wheat is equal to 2.5R, which is lying in between 1 wheat is equal to 2R and 1 wheat is equal to 3R. So C is the right answer, where the opportunity cost is in between the two where the exchange rate is in between the two opportunity costs. In this question, we are given PPCs which are parallel to each other. Whenever PPCs are parallel to each other, there is what we call the opportunity cost is the same. So when the opportunity cost is same, the trade should not take place. So D is the right answer, which says opportunity cost is the same. So trade between X and Y will not take place. Both countries will not benefit from specialization because there is no comparative advantage, and the country X and Y have similar opportunity costs. That's why B is wrong. Country Y has a comparative advantage in both goods. No, country Y actually has an absolute advantage in both goods. Absolute means the country Y is making more of both goods as compared to country X. So that's why for this question, the right answer is D, which says that trade between X and Y will not take place. This is November 2009, question number 18. It says a country has the correct climate for growing tea, which is produced very cheaply and exported. Fruit is also grown, but this costs more as the climate is not as suitable. So fruit can be sold at a higher price than tea, as some of the land used for tea is switched to fruit. So they have a comparative advantage in one go, but they're still producing more fruit because fruit is giving them a higher price. What will definitely happen as a result? There can be an increase in specialization. Well, specialization is not happening here. In fact, diversification is happening. So A is wrong. B says there will be an increase in imports of tea. Well, it isn't really happening because now they are exporting tea, but it doesn't really make provide any information about whether the import of tea would happen. There will be an opportunity cost of the loss of tea production. C seems to be the right answer, because when you are deciding to make more of fruits, there will be less land available for tea production, which means there will be an opportunity cost. That's why C is the right answer. There will be production in line with absolute advantage. Absolute advantage simply makes who makes more. That probably is not happening because clearly food the country doesn't have an absolute advantage. So C is the right answer, which means there will be an opportunity cost.